Hurricane season came early and arrived in the Maritimes as a tropical storm. But Arthur did its damage, leaving tens of thousands of Canadians without power. New Brunswick was drenched with 110 millimeters of rain, and at its peak, winds reached 116 kilometers in Nova Scotia. And it's not over yet. The storm will track through the Gulf of St. Lawrence and head towards Newfoundland. We have two reports tonight, beginning with Global National's Ross Lord. Ross?
Robin, the big story here in Nova Scotia are these vicious winds gusting to more than 100 kilometers an hour, strong enough to topple scores of trees like the one on top of this car. But in the Maritimes as a whole, the wind is only one part of Arthur's impact.
At Peggy's Cove, Arthur-driven waves crash onto the rocks, covering onlookers with sea spray. The safer bet is watching from a distance.
You can see how dangerous it would be. They're saying these were 5 to 7 meters high, so those are big waves.
Damage control is underway, but it will take a long time to erase the mark Arthur is leaving on the Maritimes. Some trees have been severed. Others are completely uprooted. Street closures are commonplace as Arthur continues to pack a fearsome punch.
I was expecting maybe a little bit of blowing, but I was not expecting as much damage as what it's done right here in Bridgewater today.
To the left of Arthur's track in New Brunswick, there's a combination of intense winds and massive rainfall. An estimated 150 millimeters of rain, about 6 inches, has washed out some streets, just the start of what could be days of flooding. Through the day, about 250,000 homes and businesses in the Maritimes lost their power, including grocery stores and gas stations. And they could be in the dark for a while. Not what visitors had in mind at the height of tourism season.
I was very disappointed, but I thought, well, you never know, you just have to roll with the punches.
Easier said than done when just moving your feet is almost impossible.
It's constant, like it's the wind is just constant, eh?
Although it is hurricane season, storms of this impact don't normally hit the Maritimes this early. But forecasters say the impact is not a surprise to them.
This kind of wind in the summertime with the leaves on the trees, this is fairly typical for 100 kilometer per hour winds.
Arthur is sweeping across the Maritimes very slowly. That means he's expected to keep pummeling the region with winds and rain until finally easing off sometime overnight.
The Maritimes is not alone in grappling with Arthur. He's already left his mark in the U.S., as Paul Johnson reports.
In the U.S., Arthur was the first Category 2 hurricane to strike the country in 6 years. It was well short of a disaster, but what a mess. From North Carolina to Maine, tens of thousands are still without power. Businesses and homes flooded, and roads in some of the region's most popular summer tourism spots have been washed out.
Wind blows, storms come, we clean up. Next day we go and do what we do.
While Arthur landed mostly a glancing blow on the U.S., tracking roughly parallel to the East Coast, it couldn't have come at a more inconvenient time, as the July 4th celebrations are one of the country's busiest travel times. In many places, fireworks and barbecues got replaced with wet walks on windy beaches. And the biggest reason to celebrate was that no one appears to have been injured or killed.
Could have been a lot worse. Thank goodness it wasn't.
As the cleanup gets underway, beach towns from North Carolina's Outer Banks to Cape Cod are trying to get the word out that it's back to business as usual. While it's been a few years, peak tourist season here is also early hurricane season. Paul Johnson, Global News, Washington.